Well, Boker Tov. We're on, we're waiting for you. Ayin Gimel Amud Beis, and we're up to Tana Rabbanan. But it's about 10, 15 lines from the bottom, Tana Rabbanan. Just before we go further, we spoke about what's famous, everybody knows, that very few people came up Israel after the Churban by Rishon. And we do know how many people came. That's 42,360, plus another 7,000 or so of other. That's the pasuk says over there. And the question was, how many people remained in Bavel? So it doesn't say. My question was that in Malachim Yimi, when it says how many people were exiled, it's a very small number, relatively a very small number. 10,000, something like that. It wasn't a big number. So why does everybody make that in 70 years? How many Israel was so big? So I asked Pinchas to look into it. So far, what we got information is that 300 years, doesn't say Beferish, doesn't say yet, but 300 years after coming back there, it's Israel, 300 years later, there were a million people. Am Yisrael was a million people 300 years later.
In which country?
In Bava. So if there's a myth how to do it, the same way when you start off with and then they multiply. So exponentially, I think the word is how to figure out what their average birth rate would be and how many generations it would take. So you go backwards. You have a million people. 300 years earlier, how many were they? So if we could do that, we might get some kind of a number, which I think is not going to be, I'm not a math. I don't think it's going to be so much more than to make that there was a vast majority remained in Bavel. If Bavel had a million people 300 years later,
to make 100,000 wouldn't be so much. It would only be 10 times the amount. It's nothing.
If there were 40,
let's say there were 100,000. You're saying 40. So why not get it to half?
It's 100,000 people.
So let's say 100,000
people. So then in the 300 years to get a million people, it's not such a big chiddush. It's not such a big chiddush. So if that's true, if the facts are true that that 300 years later the Am Yisrael in Babel was a million people, that means that half the people came up to Israel. It's not like a small minority. How do they make it? Who knows? 5%, 10%. The little small people, the schleppers. I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't know until now. And now this maybe supports a little bit that it wasn't such a minority.
But that's what all the books say, right?
Right. I don't know where they get it from.
So far, okay, since the Holocaust, we're talking about 75 years, and if anything, we've gone down in people, not up. So
why? Because intermarriage. That's something else. We know in the marriage over there. We know how much was intermarriage.
How much?
It wasn't. In Bava, there wasn't intermarriage. In Eretz Yisrael, we know 113 people, something like that took Goyish wives. But it wasn't like Bava was all intermarrying. On the contrary, Bava was not intermarrying with Goyim. So I'd like to know more. If anybody could still do, but the math shouldn't be so difficult. I don't know the formula, but to figure out the birth rate.
Well, that's what you have to find out. How many children would that happen?
Okay, so give us a few possibilities. If it was 3 kids, it was 4 kids, 5 kids. What would be the rate, the ratio, how much would it have been in 300 years to go down backwards from a million people? I think it might help us. Okay, I give a base. So this came in Agav. This also came out as Agav. We spoke about Rabbi said a statement that the parents, if someone steps up by a Sufi, they found somebody on the street, whatever, and the Sufi would be a Chsapik Mamzer, and then someone comes and says, "I'm the mother," or "I'm the father." So Rabbi said that during Shnei Ravon, they believed, and they couldn't figure out during a famine they believed. Did I say correctly? Rabbi said a statement something about Shnei Ravon, and the Gemara couldn't understand what he's talking about. The Gemara came out to say that the halacha is that the parents, if the mother or father comes back and says, "It's me, I'm the father, I'm the mother," it's only believed before it was taken in, before somebody picked them up. But once someone picked them up, it's not believed anymore. And that Rabbi said that with Shnei Ravon, they are believed even afterwards, if they say that I'm the parent. And the reason is because the whole Isser is not a real Isser. The only reason why we say that they're not believed is because that's all Shema Sufi. But they didn't want to make by Shnei Ravon, by the famine, so then a lot of kids get put outside because the parents can't afford to feed them. So they figure maybe somebody's going to feed them. So then they didn't make the Chumrah just because of the call to make that the parents shouldn't be believed that anymore once he was picked up. Because of that, the Gemara brought Amr Rav Chisda, two other cases we find that put the manas right away. That was Rav Chisda over here, just highlighted. Amr Rav Chisda, this is already a side subject. Amr Rav Chisda, Shalosha, Nemanim La'alter. There are only three places that you find that the Nemanis is only immediately, and later on they lose the Nemanis. Our case was a Sufi, that's what we just talked about, because it tells you the other two dinim, Chaya, which means a midwife, that she says who the child is. She's only believed right away. If you saw Machlokes, if she goes out of the room, or even if she turns around, it could be she's not believed anymore. And Pateres Chabaseha, which meant that they found Dam on the bed, and there are a couple of women who slept over there. So then they're all tummy, but if one of them finds right away, she finds blood, she made a Badika, so then she could assume that we attributed it to her, if not. So that was good. But now the Gemara is going to go on the subject of Chaya. Chaya means a midwife. And that's what it's going to be the Gemara now on Tanu Rabbanan. So if I may, to put in parentheses, it's not our subject. Yichus and everything, it's true, Yichus, but talking about Mamzeris, here it's going to talk about when is the Chaya believed. When is the midwife believed to say who is the child? And the case would be, like Rashi says, you have a room, it could be a hospital, a lot of kids are born, or even any room that there are a couple of kids born in the room, and now the midwife is going to say who's who. There are a bunch of mothers. One is a Kohen, one is married to a Kohen, one a Levi, one a Nussin, a Mamzer. Yeah, 4 babies over there. Who's who? Tana Rabbana. The Menes Chaya Lomas, the Kohen's, the Levi's, the Nussins, and Mamzer. That the Chaya, the midwife, we trust her to say who's who. And the question is going to be, what kind of manas does she have? Based on what? It's not Edom. How come we do trust her? It doesn't say in the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't say why we trusted the Chaya, but she's believed. See, there's a Gersa change here. It might be Allah, it might be Allah. Rashi says that it means the child. Only if nobody is, what's the word, Irur? Nobody is challenging her. But if somebody challenges her, then she's not believed. And now the Gemara, this is the Bryce that we just had. The Bryce is going to continue, but this is a parentheses within the, this is, I'm just making a different kind of parentheses because I made a parentheses already. The whole sugi is a parentheses. But now the Gemara interjects into the Bryce, who's the challenging over here? What kind of challenge? Who's challenging the midwife? If only one person comes and says differently, then what kind? What kind of shalma? Iru shalma. What kind of challenge? It's a better word than challenging. If anybody can help me with the English, but what kind of who's challenging the chaya? If it's only one person,
disprove maybe?
Not to disprove, it's not disproving. Someone is discrepancy. How do you say that? That someone is.
Yeah, no, there's a disagreement.
Okay.
What do you have on your
No, there's no verb.
appeal? Someone appeals it?
They call that today to a business, but I'm not sure if that's the word that you when one person says something, he's coming to say, no, it's not true. I'm not sure if that's protest. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Fine, all the way from America.
So only if there's a protest against it, it's not believed. Who's protesting? If it's one person who's protesting, Rabbi Yochanan said, a protest less than 2, you don't accept. There's nothing. It's garnished. So even if someone would protest, so the Chai still would be believed. The Brisa said that the Chai is not believed against the protest. But if it's only a single protest, an individual protest, it's nothing. It must be Ella Iritre. Okay, if 2 people come against her, then she's not believed. Of course, then that's Pasha, 2 Edom. If 2 Edom are going to come and say that she's wrong, she said this is the Kohen, this is the Levi, this is the Mamzer, and so 2 Edom come and say she's wrong. So for sure, you don't believe her. Okay, but if no Edom, so then she is believed. Iba Yisema, and you also, if you want to, I may say, that even one protest is enough to knock down the midwife. What does Rabbi Yochanan say that an individual protest doesn't count if it's only if there's a chazaka? If there's some kind of chazaka, someone had a chazaka cheskes kashrus, and somebody comes to protest the chazaka, and one person, you don't listen to him. Only 2 people. Okay, but if there was no chazaka, so then even one person also could challenge, could protest. So that's the case over here. The child that's born doesn't have any chazaka. We don't know who he is. Is the whole beginning, from his whole inception. We don't know who he is now. The kid was born, and you don't know who they are. You have 4 kids in a room, 4 mothers, 4 kids. You don't know who's who. And the midwife says, "I'll tell you who. This is the Kohen, this is the Levi, this is the Nussin, this is the Mamzer." And one person comes and says, "No, this is the Kohen, this is the Mamzer." So that's what the Brisa might mean. That since the kid doesn't have any chazaka, there was no chazaka. So therefore, even one protest, an individual protest, also will knock down the midwife. That was the first thing in the brisa. The first thing in the brisa, we'll highlight it. The first thing was chaya.
When you think the midwife's got more knowledge, what's going on?
Someone saying I also was there. I'm also there in the room, and she's wrong. So she's a woman, and this is going to be probably a man. I'm not sure. Maybe if a woman also can a woman also protest? It says that there's no chazakia, so she doesn't have an amonus. And the question will be, why is she has believed? Why is the midwife believed? That doesn't say anything in Gemara. And Machavusha says, some of the Mephoshim talk about it in the back. On what basis do we believe the midwife? Why is she believed? It might be because we gave her the responsibility. Someone has to trust somebody, but it sounds pretty schwach that the whole yichus is going to be dependent because we have no choice. You have to trust the midwife. I think also, by the way, it doesn't mean the Goyish midwife. It means a Jewish midwife. The Goyish midwife, the Torah doesn't have any namanas. And nowadays, the reason why we're going to trust in the hospital is because that's called like more public services, and they're going to lose their reputation if they're going to mess something up. They put on the label right away as soon as the kid is born, and we trust that they're not going to mess anything up, because they get into big trouble if they do. But that's not the regular namanas we're talking about. We're talking about a Jewish woman. She's not under any kind of supervision or agency, and she's believed because it doesn't say why. It doesn't say why she's believed, but I think it's talking about a Jewish woman and not a Goyish woman. So that was the first part of the brisa. The brisa continues on the same vein, and now it talks about a Baal Mekach. All this is, as we said, they're going on a cruise. This is not our subject. Somebody who sells something. There's a mocher, a storekeeper, that claimed that they bought the product, and he's the one who has the namas to say who he sold it to. And the Gemara is going to explain what the case is. We'll see in a second. Both of them gave money, and he has the product that he didn't give out yet. He's going to say, I know who accepted it from. The other one that stuffed the money into my hand, but I didn't sell it to him. The seller is only, the storekeeper is only believed that he has the product. He didn't give out the product. He has the product, and he's going to say, I sold it to him. And the other one's screaming, no, you sold it to me. He says, no, I sold it to him. Once he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it anymore. Rashi says the case is going to be that both of them are holding on to it. He gave out the product, then both of them are holding on to it. And then they asked, one that says, I bought it. The storekeeper says, he bought it. I told him. He's not believed anymore. He's only believed as long, he's not better than anybody else. Only as long as he has the product in his hands. That's the brisa. Once again, the Gemara interjects, and this is middle of the brisa still, but the Gemara is interjecting to figure it out. Let's see who gave him the money. It means Rashi says that the Gemara understands that he definitely will remember if one person gave him money, he has money. And the question is, each one says, I gave you the money. That for sure he remembers. That for some, I don't know why the Gemara takes that as a given, but the Gemara says for sure, if there be a question that one person gave him money, he's surely going to be believed. And it wouldn't, and even if he doesn't have the product anymore, he says, I got the money from. The case was that both of them gave money, and he has money from both of them. But he says that one of them gave and he says, well, one of them I willingly took for the sale, the other one just stuffed it into my hand. And it's not known. The word lo yediyah means it's not known. We don't know. We don't know who he accepted it from, willingly and who not. And that he's now to say that I took it from him willingly, another one stuffed it into my hand. So that's the end of the second case. The case was that there's a machlokas between two people. Both of them gave money to the storekeeper, and the storekeeper still has the product in his hand. He's believed to say who he sold it to, who accepted the money from willingly, and the other one stuffed it into his hand. But once he doesn't have the product anymore, he's not believed, and they're going to have to figure it out. Whatever the machlokas is going to be, whatever it's going to be, a chloka, whatever it's going to be, like two people are arguing, and this person is not neman to decide. And the third case, the Bryce continues on the same vein of a dayan. A dayan is a judge. And what's the machlokas over here between the two people? What do they call them? Litigants? Is that the way you pronounce it? Litigants. And he said that you're chayiv, you're potter. And now they start arguing. He said I'm chayiv. He said I'm potter. He says no. I said I'm potter. The dayan is sitting over there, and we ask him, who did he say is potter? The judge is never to say this is the one that, and this is the one who said that he is guilty. And the Gemara is going to say right away, if they're arguing about it, he does. So
just said it.
he just said it, but they're arguing. He said the Ampater. He said no. He said Ampater. And even this, the judge is only believed as long as the litigants are still standing there. Once they went out, then they get a machlokas between them. Who's potter? They come back to the judge. He's not neman anymore. That's the brisa. And once again, for the third time, the Gemara is going to analyze the brisa. The next is chusa man nakit. First, the Gemara talks about that it was regular procedure that they would get a document. The Bezdin, the Sopra Dayan, would give a document to say that this one, that there was such a case. The protocol, they give over what happened, and it says he gets a document that says he's the one who's potter. So ask them, where's your document? The case says that it's torn up, they didn't write it, whatever the case would be. It's not no document. Of course, if there's a document, it says perish on the document who's potter. When the head of in let him judge him again. They'll say, let's say the cases that they left the courthouse, and then there's machlokas who's potter. They come back into the courthouse, and the brisa says the dine is not him anymore. So let him sit down and do the judgment again. Sit down, bring evidence. Let's do the whole thing over again. I'll tell you now what I think. The answer is Shuda the Daini. It's talking about a kind of the judgment that you can't do over again. The word Shuda the Daini means Dayanim throw. Shuda means to throw. And Al Gemara Pashtus would sound like that sometimes there's no way to paskin, and we just tell the Dayan do whatever you want. The Dayan has the authority to do whatever he wants. Not based, this is Taisus I'm saying now, not based on any kind of svara. He just decides to give it to one of them. There's no way to figure out who's more deserving, and we don't just say achloku or motzim echad, whatever the case would be. There's sometimes when you say shudid the dine, that the judge should decide who to give it to with no reason at all, and therefore he can't do it again because we don't care what the one who says that he was the one who was zocha, he's the one who won the case, so he can't do it again because now he's going to decide maybe to give it to him because it isn't based on any svara. If the psak would be based on our tightness, and there's a reason and a svara and a proof, so the evidence. So then do it again. We'll probably get to the same maskana that we got the first time. But if the case is shooted the dining, so it's not based on anything. So therefore you can't do it again. What did the Bryce say according to this? That usually if the machlokas is between the litigants what the psak was, so ask the dayan, as long as they still didn't leave the room, it's still his responsibility to know and he's trusted. Once he left the room, he's not relieved anymore. He might have forgotten himself. And regular Torah, you'll tell him to do it again. We'll take the case over again, bring out your evidence and witnesses, and we'll hear the case. And I'll pass it again. It'll come out to be the same psak the first time. If it's kind of a shooter the daini, if it's a case that Dayan just decided shrimuti, how do you say, randomly, and there is no reason to. So then the Dayan's not nema. What's going to whatever you do, yachloku or whatever other psak you do when you have a Adkan, the brisa with all the explanation, and that's finished. That was all a cruise that we finished already. And now starts the Gemara back to the subject about the Chayim. I'm sorry, we're still inside the cruise. The cruise goes still to 2 dots. Yeah, I take that back. The cruise is continuing. The brisa. Rav Nachman is still continuing about not our subject. So it's the end of the brisa and the explanation, but it's still we're still not yet back to our subject. I'm Rav Nachman. You have a question, who's the firstborn? Who is the firstborn? You have a family, you want to know who the firstborn is. So it says there are 3 people that are never to say who's the firstborn. Eluhain, Chaya, Abba, V'imo. The midwife, the father, and the mother. Those are the 3 people. But he continues and says that it's not all on the same level. Chaya la'alter. The Chaya, the midwife, was only believed right away. Like we said before, that she didn't turn away, she didn't go out of the room, and she says that there are 2 kids were born. This is the Bechor, this is the second one. Imo kol shiva. The mother believed the first 7 days of the baby's life. She's believed to say who the Bechor is. And Aviv la'olam, and the father's forever believed to say who the Bechor is. And the one's going to bring up Brisa, but the Brisa is only going to explain the last one, Aviv la'olam, that the father is believed forever to say who the firstborn is. Kidatanya, Yakir. It says in the pasuk, Bechor ben Asnua Yakir. You can find the pasuk over here. It's the Yakir over here. That father of the two sons, even though one is a son of a more beloved wife, he still has to give the double portion to the Bechor, who, even if the mother was the one that is not the favorite wife. But anyway, it says that Yakir, that the father should recognize him to give him the Pishnayim. There was rationing that he is the one who has the right to recognize him to others, means to introduce him, that this is my firstborn son. Yakir, that's the Brisa. Oh, the Brisa continues. It's probably the Tana. That a person is believed to say, this is my firstborn son, and there's no limit forever. Whenever it comes time, we can say that this is my firstborn son. The Brisa ends off. This is not us. This is again interjection, which is not our subject. Okay, shame. That he's also never to say that this son is possible. That he's a Kohen, I'm a Kohen, but he's born of a Grusha, married a Grusha, a Chalutza, and the kid is a Cholo. But Chachamim Omrim, Eino Nema. Machlok is about this thing, if the fathers believe to say that his son is possible. Tais asks the Kashi, where does this come from? Where does this come from? The pasuk only says he's believed to say that he's the firstborn. Where do you find that the fathers believe to say that it's possible? Tais says two pshatim, but just to say one of them, that the first answer of Tais is that if he's going to say on a certain son that he's the Bechor, and as far as we know, there are other sons that are older than him, it comes out that he's saying, those are not my sons. They're Mamzerim. So if you say that he's believed to say he was the firstborn, so it comes out that he's also believed to say that the other ones are Mamzerim. So you see that the Torah trusts him even for that. So really, surely believed to say that they're Ben Gusha Ben Chalutza. We had a Gemara about 10 pages ago that spoke about if the fathers believed to say that the daughter was a Shvuya, and over there said he's not, and the Gemara went through it at the Yodo, and that the Gemara comes out that it has to that the only Namanis of a father to pass the daughter to say the daughter is married. And Azeh says which man. So over there the Gemara learned out that he's believed only the guy be given and Kiddushin, not the guy be anything else. So he wouldn't be able to say that my daughter was captured. And I didn't understand the difference between these two Gemara. So our Gemara says that the father is believed to say that his son is possible. Over there is not believed to say that his daughter is a shvuya. So I asked my Chavusa, and he said that difference is over there it's talking about something happened to her, a story that happened. Here it's talking about the lineage. What's he made out of? What's his makeup? So he says that his makeup is his mother's a Kedusha Chavusa. That is believed, and by the daughter also, of course, they believe to say if something is relevant to her birth. But if it has something to do with what happened to her afterwards, that's the Gemara over there. He's only believed as far as Citrin Kiddushin, which also is a story that happened to her afterwards, and only that, and not Shibuya. So here the Gemara. So the whole thing was Agav. The whole story came in because Chaya. How did it come in to our subject? Where am I going over here? That yesterday's Gemara spoke about that a parent is only believed to say that this was my abandoned child. They found the kid in the train station, and the question is who the parent are. And we picked up the child too late. Someone comes before we picked them up, and they asked who's the mother, who's the father. Someone comes and says I'm the mother, I'm the father. Then they believe. Once you pick them up, then he's called an Asufi, and they're not believed anymore. Rabbi said Bishnas Rabba, they will be believed because it's going to be too many people that are going to get the Shema name as Sufi. We're not going to be able to pick it up anymore. By Bishnas Rabba, we do believe them. But that was one of the cases where a person is believed only immediately, and because of that Gemara, we brought in also that a Chai is only believed immediately. We have Machlokas if it means before they left the room, or before even turning around. Once you mentioned Chaya, so we said the halachas about a Chaya also that she's believed to say Kohen Levi, and that the Gemara said she's only believed if nobody is arguing with her, but it's only protest, even a single protest, since no Cheskos Kashrus, she's not going to be believed anymore. And because of that, we got two more tangents about Abal Mekach, that the seller, the owner of the storekeeper is only believed as long to say who he sold it to, if he has money from both of them, and he says which he knows who gave it to him, only as long as he has the product. Once he gave out the product, he's not believed anymore. Also, a Dayan is believed to say what the verdict was, or Shuda the Daini, as long as they didn't leave the room. Once they left the room, so then he deletes it, then he doesn't remember anymore, and he can't trust him. And also about a Bechor, that a Chai leave, like I said before, Chai leave right away. The father believed forever because of the pasuk of Yakir, and the mother, the Gemara doesn't explain. Why is the mother believed for 7 days? So there's no Gemara on that. Rashi takes over, and Rashi says that the father, the first 7 days, doesn't recognize his kid yet, because there wasn't by the bris. The first 7 days, the father doesn't recognize the child, the mother's taking care of him. So the father only gets the bris on the 8th day. So the father only gets to know his kid when it's relevant to him. On the 8th day, he gets to recognize his child. He says, Citrin, this is my child. Okay, now I know him. And from now on the 8th day. But the first 7 days, he doesn't know him. What's he doing?
He's making preparations.
Preparations for the bris. So he doesn't have the mother is the one who's taking care of the baby the first 7 days, but that doesn't explain why the mother's believed. Okay, so the father's
cigars or something.
what?
He's
Passing out cigars. Okay. So Rashi just explains why the first 7. Rashi trying to find a pshat. Why is the first 7 days different? So Rashi says because it doesn't say. Rashi is a speculation. I don't know if he has a source. He's saying because the father only goes from the 8th day. So we can't just say the father's only authority to believe. The Chai is only believe right away. Like 7 days gap. Who's going to say what happened during the 7 days? So they put it on to the mother, and we're going to trust the mother. Rashi doesn't go further to explain on what basis are we going to trust the mother. This is a very serious question. Yes. If the father will say right away, also he says, I happen to know him. I think that Rashi also will say that the father's also believed. I hope there's no because the father and the mother. I don't know. Okay, probably according to the way the Gemara makes it sound, the father's really the authority. The mother's only on. If you have no choice, we'll give 7 days to the mother to be the authority, but not because she really deserves it. That's because we have no choice. The Chai is out and the father's not in yet. But if the father does have an opinion within the 7 days, he's probably believed. Okay.
The only time there were chalokes between the parents is when the kid grows up and gets kicked out of school.
And they talk about giving the name also. I once was in the waiting room of the maternity ward, and someone comes out with a mazel tov. He goes on the phone. Then before they had the cell phones, he goes on the phone and said, "We're ready fighting." The baby was just born. We're already fighting about the name. So just to point out that Hashem says, that Hashem is ready even to be mevater in His name in order to make shalom between husband and wife. So surely the name of the kid shouldn't get in the way. It came the kid and the grandfather, whatever. Each one that wants to honor their ancestors. So surely shouldn't be a reason to fight. The Mishnah said, it says in the Mishnah that there are many yuchsin, about 10 yuchsin, and it said one of them was a shtuki. A shtuki is a suffix who his mother is, you know who the father is. You know the mother, you don't know who the father is. At the end of the Mishnah, it says that Abba Shaul used to call him a baduki. He had a different name. He used to call him, instead of calling him a shtuki, he used to call him a baduki, which the Gemara says has some kind of halachic ramifications. The word baduki sounds like a bodek, so he should be checked out. My baduki, what does Abba Shaul mean to say that the shtuki should be checked out? It means again, you know the mother, you don't know who the father is. So Abba Shaul says, check it out. How do you check it out? Maybe the pshat is check him out. Who's the mother? Who's the father? The question about it. She says that she's a pnuya, she's an unwed mother, and the question who the father was just because she's unwed wouldn't make the kid to be a mamzer or anything. It's only if she had relations with someone who's a mamzer, or what else? Anything else would make her? Or there's only case ever. Somebody used a closed ever that's chayvik krisis. So then the kid's going to be so you maybe ask her, and she says kosher, and then it's going to be kosher. Maybe not menace. Maybe that's what Rabbi Shalom used to say, that you could verify who the child is by asking her.
You don't know who the father is, but she says he's kosher.
Right. She doesn't even have to say who he is, probably. She says, I know that he's kosher. He's not a relative and he's not a mamzer. So that would be enough to believe him. And the Gemara has no problem with that shot. And it could be believed. The most only kasha is that we know such an opinion already. Come on, Rav Gamliel. Rav Gamliel knows like that. And the kasha is going to be, Tanina Chada Zimna. There's such a Mishnah Ksubis. And over there it does say such an opinion that she's believed. And it should have, instead of saying another Mishnah with a Baduki, it should have gone over there and said that Abu Shal holds the same thing as Rav Gamliel. What does it say in this Mishnah over there? The Tanan. A woman, an unwed woman, a single woman was pregnant. And they asked the woman, what is the status of this fetus that you're pregnant with? That I'm pregnant from a certain man. Here it does say the name of the man, and he's kosher. He's a kosher man. Kohen means a meyuchas is even a Kohen. That's not the point. The point is that he's not somebody who's going to make the kid a mamzer. So he asked the woman, and she says that the child is kosher. So you have machlokas over here. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer say you do trust her, and the way the Gemara wanted to explain, Abba Shaul also was like that.
What the words mean?
Yeah, I didn't say it yet. So if I said Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer say that she's believed, but Yeshua says we don't live off of her mouth. That means that her mouth is not enough to trust. We don't trust her mouth. We don't live off her mouth. So means that's the opposite of a pesha asa pesha itit. If the whole problem would have been invented because of her mouth, so then we'd also trust. Then we are living off of her mouth. The whole problem was created by her. So then we would trust her to make it kosher. But if We see that she's pregnant. She doesn't. That wasn't her information that told us. We know that she's pregnant. So then we have to know who says it's kosher. So just because she said so, it's not a reason to believe it. So that's machlokas in the Mishnah. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer say that you do trust the woman, and Rabbi Shua says not. And all you want to say in our Mishnah is that Rabbi Shul holds the same thing as Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, Beduki. Check out the Mishnah. So the Gemara is not happy. It should not have said Rabbi Shul said Beduki. It should have been in that Mishnah over there that Rabbi Shul also means that holds that you trust the woman. Agav, it says over here, some don't have the gear, so some do. The Omar, it's not relevant. Agav, that might be a person like this, and it seems that we do pass like that. But the Gemara's problem over here is that Abba Shol should have been more clear. Rebbe, the one who's beside the Mishnah, he should have organized it all together. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Gamliel, Abba Shol, it shouldn't have put the Mishnah over here in Kiddushin about the same subject. So the Gemara answers, that the reason why you have two Mishnah is to say that the child is also kosher. The Mishnah over there in Ksubas might just be as far as the status of the woman. If she had relations with somebody that's going to make her puzzle, she's going to be now a zona, and that has ramifications of her status. And maybe over there, Rabbi Gamliel says you trust her that she was developed as a kosher person, and she's kosher. But it doesn't mean that you're going to give even kashrus, even going to trust her as far as the child is born. And the reason why it's worse is because there's no chazaka. We had today already also that a woman would still not kashrus. And now the question was if she became puzzle. So on that, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer say trust. But the child that's born now never had a cheskes kashrus. So maybe Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer also wouldn't trust the woman's word that she says that I had relations with a kosher person. But our Mishnah is talking about the child. That's the subject, the shtuki, beduki, that Rabbi Shol says that you trust the mother's word even for the child's kashrus, even though there's no cheskes kashrus on the child. That would be good according to the mandam, but it says seems to be machlokas Avrohom over there in Ksubas that Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer say it's kosher, only her, but they also hold that the child is puzzle, postal babita. The mandam says that even according to the words of the one who say that she's kosher, still holds that the daughter is puzzle. So that's very good. That over there, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer hold that the child is puzzle. You don't trust the mother's word, and therefore Abba Shal came to argue and say you do trust the mother's word even for the daughter. But some hold that Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer over there in Ksubas also say that the daughter is kosher. So Abba Shal didn't add on anything more than that Mishnah. The answer is Abba Shal Adifa the Rabbi Gamliel. He's a big chiddush even according to that. That the Mishnah over there, you believe her, even as far as the daughter goes. But it could be because most of the people around, the suspected possible men who had relations with this woman are kosher people. Most of the people are kosher. Means most of the people in the city are not mamzerim. Most of the people in the city are not her relatives. But if her vicinity is mostly puzzle people, mostly relatives, mostly mamzerim, so then maybe you don't trust the mother's word. So Abba Shal came to say even that is also enough. The Gemara builds it all because he said beduki. It's a very big chiddush that you have row possibilities that the kid is puzzle, and you have a problem that Rabbi Gamliel, Abba Shal said beduki, and he should have said it. If he means this, he should have said it over there already. And Ksubis, because of that, we're going to build up a chiddush that she's never even against the row. Pretty big chiddush to build on Gdiyah. That what is Abba Shal saying beduki? So that's what the Gemara says, that according to Abba Shal, she's even believed against the row. I'm a Rabbi Allah Abba Shal. That's like Abba Shal, that she's even believed against the row, even if most chances are that the kid is puzzle, because most of the people in the vicinity are mamzerim or krobim. If she says that the one I'm pregnant from is a kosher man and the child is kosher, even though there's no chazak on the kid, she's also believed.
Point out that the Gemara in Ksubas also ends up there in Gamliel's in the Rosh Hashanah. But the Gemara is from a bride, so from a Mishnah. So I mean, it's not a kasha to us. But you're right, it's a big chiddush, but the Gemara over there also goes.
And over there it's built on more.
Oh,
It's
other
other prices.
Anyhow, we get to
Okay. So what happened over here? We had in the Mishnah talked about Asa Yichsan Olam Bavel. And the Mishnah also said about the different categories. You had the first category, Kol Levi Yisrael, they're allowed to intermarry. But Chol is not there because the Chol can't marry to get a Chalala with a Kohen. Then it goes Chalole, and then Geri Charure. No, Levi, start from Levi then. The second category starts from Levi, Kohen's out. Levi, Yisrael, Halale Geire and Charure, same as the Ger, right? So they're also allowed to intermarry. Kohen is not in that category. And also the Mamzerim are not in that category. And then goes the next category. Geri starts. The third category, Geri, Charure, and all the Mamzerim, Masafat Mamzerim, Mamzer Nasan, and Sufi. Those people are allowed to intermarry. And it came up a Chiddush over there that Mamzerim and Safat Mamzerim are allowed to intermarry. And that's a Chiddush because Safat Mamzer might be kosher. And still, a Safat Mamzer is allowed to marry. There's a lot of Mary Mamzer. Also, there's a Chiddush over there that a ger, which we didn't talk about. I didn't point it out, but we did have the sugi, but I didn't point it out. I didn't realize that it's Perish Mishnah that the ger nosi mamzeris, which was Machlokes of Gersh and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi said the ger is allowed to marry mamzeris. Rabbi Yehuda is not allowed to. The one yesterday brought in the subject about kol gerim, if they call them kol or not. Tari dash nepsukim. Machlokes if ger and mamzer are allowed to intermarry, and everybody holds the kid as a mamzer. But my question was if they're allowed to marry. So the parak, the end of the last, the end of the third parak, the Gemara came out question if that's Abuda talking over there. That he said a cloud. The first category was that any marriage which is permissible, the kid goes with the father, and that's only according to Rabbi Yehuda. No, am I wrong? If they're allowed to marry, the kid goes with the father. And it's not true because according to Rabbi Yossi, the verse doesn't fit the Rabbi Yossi because Rabbi Yossi says that a ger can marry mamzeres, and you don't go with the father. A ger marries a mamzeres, and the kid is a mamzer. So the Gemara had a possibility that the mission over there is Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara had another terrace over there, which I forgot. What's the second terrace? How does the Mishnah go with Rabbi Yossi? I forgot. The Gemara said how to fit it in. But it comes out that this Mishnah in this fourth parak now says beferish, mamish beferish like Rabbi Yossi, that a ger is allowed to marry mamzeres. Geri chavuri mamzeri is allowed to intermarry. So it says ferish like Rabbi Yossi. That was the first Mishnah beginning of the parak. Now it continues. If anybody wants air conditioner, please feel free. We should do it every day now. I think instead of having the afsaka, maybe till I'm saying till people need it, that we could try the air conditioner every day.
Thank you very much.
Anybody that's not allowed to marry into the Jewish nation, the kol means the Jewish girl that's born Jewish, let's say. So they're allowed to intermarry with each other. Now, who does that? What would we say on that statement alone? What would we say about the statement? What do we know about that? We know mamzerim are also love of a kol. What else do we have? Suffolk mamzer. What? Till then. So mamzer lasin shtuki and lasuki. Ger is not called also love of a kol. Ger is not a mutter love of a kol. He's down the group. We had the Mishnah before said 6 people. Geri, Haruri, mamzer, lasin, shtuki, asuki. 6 people in the last category. They're allowed to marry each other. And this Mishnah just talks about 4, the last 4. Kol asur love of a kol is only the last 4. So it's even saying less of a chiddush than the Mishnah before. The Mishnah before seemed to say, like Rabbi Yossi, that Geri and Mamzer are allowed to marry and intermarry. And this Mishnah says less of a chiddush, that the Psulim are allowed to intermarry, which is also a chiddush, but it's a much more chiddush, that the Mamzer is allowed to marry a separate Mamzer. Just to point out also, the Nasan also, I just thought that the Nasan is also a big chiddush, because Nasan is really the Nesinim, that they're really the Gevonim, and they were Magaya. Is that true, they were Magaya? You find that they were Magaya? What?
What do you show tell them?
That they're going to be chot v'yetz, and they made a bris. They made a bris, and they're going to be chot v'yetz and shovim. They're going to be workers. They're going to be wood choppers and water carriers. They're nesinim. We didn't have a sugi about them yet, but we always said that the same thing as mamzer. And with that it says, I think in Yavamas, it says that since they were
together,
the last 6 were together, and here the last 4 are together. And then, so I'm just saying that Mishnah before went according to Rabbi Yossi that a ger mamzer allowed them to marry, and our Mishnah doesn't say that, but it does say that mamzer and Suffolk mamzer are allowed to intermarry. It also says about a nasin, which I'm a little bit shaky because a nasin, are they Jewish? If they're not Jewish, then nobody can marry them. So they seem to be are Jewish. Where did they get married exactly? Where did they do gerus exactly? I don't know, but they did gerus. And then the question is that they like a mamzer. What is that? What happened about that? That the Gemara says, I think, that since they were cruel against the children of Shaul, they wanted to kill. They killed 7 children of Shaul because they were mistreated, So David said that they're not from Bnei Israel. Bnei Israel is Rachmanim, Beishanim. They're not. Something's wrong over there in the Yichos, and he gave them a din of Mamzerim, which is very big chiddush because as far as you know, they're not Mamzerim. And now we made that a lot of area Mamzer. If you only would be machmer on them, one thing. But he said that a lot of area Mamzerim. Mamzerim, they've seen a lot of. How could they do that if they're really Jewish? How could? So I don't have clarity on that yet. Maybe we'll find as we go along. So the Mishnah here is a small chiddush that all of the psulei kohol, assume love of a kohol, that mutar love of which includes mamzer, nosin, and the suffix mamzerim, shtuki and asufi. Rabbi Yehuda Oser, that's going to be a big question. What these words mean? What is Rabbi Yehuda Oser going to mean? What does he answer? You might say that he asks them to intermarry, which would mean that a mamzer is not allowed to marry a suffix mamzer, which we could tolerate because it's a big chiddush to say that a mamzer and suffix mamzer are allowed to intermarry because it's only a suffix mamzer. Before the Gemara had a drasha that called vadai mamzer vadai, but it's a chiddush, and Rabbi Yehuda might answer that, and he might say that a mamzer is not allowed to marry a suffix mamzer. Maybe the Gemara is going to discuss what the Rabbi Yehuda Oser means. This is going to be a big tumble in the Gemara, which I don't know what it means yet. Might have to stop short today. But Rabbi Yehuda Oser, the simple words, the sound that we don't allow them to intermarry. Any more we could say about this point?
We said even more.
That maybe that it's seen them also not. Like I just was pointing out. And that's a big chiddush to say also that a mamzer is not allowed to intermarry. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda is arguing with that also. So mamzer only can marry mamzeres. Maybe a suffix mamzer, but a suffix mamzer also is going to be matter. Maybe also
maybe even the same Ramah.
Even this that. But mamzer and mamzer for sure is going to be mutter. That in malasa, that's for sure mutter. So he's not going to say everybody's also to marry each other. And a suffix, and it comes out just to point out if Rabbi Yehuda is going to ask, everything I'm saying now is just Mishnah's class. Once we get to the Gemara, everything might change over. But just to read the Mishnah so far, that the Tanna Kama said that although the psulei call them mutter to intermarry, Rabbi Yehuda says not. They're not allowed to intermarry. So knock it all down. That a mamzer can't marry a shtuki and a sufi. Maybe a shtuki and a sufi can't marry either to each other. Maybe a shtuki and a shtuki. I don't know. A suffix and a suffix of the same level. Mamzer and a nosin. I don't know. Rabbi Yehuda Oser, questionable what Rabbi Yehuda might be coming to say. Rabbi Lezer Omer, if you don't have Tanna Kama and Rabbi Lezer, it'd be very clear. Rabbi Lezer Omer, Vadon mutter. Vadon b'sfeikan b'sfeikan also. Rabbi Lezer says that any sfeikus you can't make any no attain for the sfeikus. Avada and avada yamuta, which means a mamzer and a mamzer, or mamzer and a nosin, that they're definite identity. We know what the identity is, but that's what's mutter. But avada against the suffix, or a suffix against the valley, which is the same thing, or sfeikan b'sfeikan, both of them are sfeikus. It's also because you don't know. You have two shtukis. You have two of the same level even, but they're a suffix. So a shtuki and a shtuki. You have two children, two people that both of them don't know who their father is, so they can't marry each other. Yesterday the Gemara said that they could. We hold that Amish says that they could, and the Gemara said you have to be choshesh. Choshesh that the same man was
And children from a
right.
different woman.
That the Gemara is going with that. That Gemara, but it could be here, right? The Gemara could be going there just because it's suffix mamzer. Forget about the same father. Suffix mamzer. You're not sure it's a mamzer. Maybe yes, maybe not. And the other one also you don't know. Maybe yes, maybe not. Maybe one is not. See, maybe you have to be machmir. They shouldn't, because not all sfeikus are the same. It could be that this suffix is the kid is really a mamzer, and this suffix the kid is really not a mamzer, and they're going to marry each other. So a mamzer is marrying a non-mamzer. That could be what Rabbi Lezer holds. So we got a surprise over here. Kusi we didn't hear, but we didn't talk about it. The whole Masechta. I think, okay, that's a pretty strong Masechta, but at least the whole paragraph we didn't talk about it. Shtuki and Asufi, we know Shtuki means you don't know who the father is. Asufi means you don't know who the mother is either. Kusi, that's the question. I don't know what it means. Kusi, we know that was a nation of Kut that says that when they resettled after the exile of the Bais Rishon, so then the King Bavel, he brought nations to the exiled nations from different places, and he brought people of Kus to inhabit Shomron, I think, right? That's Shomron it says, and they were goyim, and then they did tshuva, they did gerus because the lions beating them up, gave arroyos, and then the question what kind of status they have, and later on in history also there were questions if they did avodah zarah, and they made them like goyim. Here it says something about the yichus over here, and they're not allowed to intermarry. Shtuki, Kusi is also not allowed to intermarry with the Jews. So I don't know anything about it. I hope the Gemara is going to talk about it. We'll see as we get there. I really would like to stop here because I don't know the rest of the Gemara.
We'll do it tomorrow. We'll
Is
start
that,
there
is that
earlier.
okay? That's
Start
okay.
earlier.
So we'll stop here.
We do go to Perea.
Usually we have a lot of,
No.
We didn't.
We
we
went
talked
over-
about Misha Perea yet. We didn't get into Misha Perea yet. did we?
Amisha Pora.
Misha Para.
We can have it over here. We can have it in this Masechta. We can have it.
I thought so.
Why should we have it? Misha
If a
Pora.
woman has, if a woman has relations with a man
Yes.
and he comes to the woman and she didn't go to him, then he's either from her family, which is a small group, or from the world, which is a big group.
So you go to Rove.
So you go through. Did we have that?
Yes. Yeah. But not do it Misha Pora. That's. I'm not sure what you're bringing. Tell me that was yesterday's Gemara.
What's this? Misha Para Anshe Dor.
Yeah. What does that have to do with the?
Rashi mentioned it by the.
I don't know, I thought that-
The reason why he has the Nemonis is because he remembers, so he shouldn't have a Mishapah.
Yeah. But that's not.
It didn't come up yet. Or it didn't.
It's not going to.
It's not going.
It's not gonna come up anymore.
It's more of a monetary issue. Rashi brought it up on today's Gemara.
She brought it up.
I didn't say it because it wasn't necessary to say in the Gemara.
Oh,
Let's see. It's. There's the Rashi. The Kamlei from Mishapara. It's one line up from the bottom on the Anamid base. The pierced Anamid base. And Gimel Anamid base, one line up from the bottom.
he just says Misha Para, he doesn't give the whole.
He doesn't explain it. Right? That's not really a subject. The Gemara is saying why the seller, the storekeeper, why he's conscious of who he sold it to. We said that as long as he has the product in his hand, he didn't give it out, and the two buyers are arguing who bought it. So the storekeeper is believed to say who he sold it to. That was today's Gemara.
I see.
And Rashi explains why does he take the interest to know who he sold it to? Because he has to know that if he made the sale, he's not allowed to back down on it. If he got money from somebody. So that's Rashi that throws in and why he's interested in conscious of knowing who's there, but it's not in the Gemara.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. So many days we went overtime and today we.
Oh, Hashem. You should bear up.